Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Henneforth and I'm doing the lesson 14 and 15 on percent change and functions. So you're going to notice we have a warm-up and it's about a scooter. So we're going to answer a series of 3 questions and I want you to just think about each one of these questions and I want you to use reasoning and just see if you could figure out the problems, either showing a diagram like we did on the percent increase decrease video that I just did, or maybe you have some prior knowledge about how to figure out percents. So I want you kind of like to do this on your own, but I'm going to start with just, we know that the scooter costs $160. Okay, so that's what we're starting with. We also know in question number 1 that we know that the cost of a pair of roller skates is 20% of the cost of the scooter. We want to know how much does the roller skates cost. We also know that a bicycle costs 20% more than the scooter. How much does the bicycle cost? And then we're talking about a skateboard, and the skateboard costs 25% less than the bicycle. So I want you to just think about that we're starting with the scooter. We know that the roller skates is going to be 20% of the cost, so it's definitely going to be less than 160. We know a bicycle costs 20% more, so that means it's going to be more than 160, and that the skateboard is going to be less than the bicycle. So go ahead and work through each one of those problems. Turn off the video if you need to, and then we'll... So remember that I said try to use maybe some of the skills that we learned about in the video yesterday or that I posted today on percent increase and decrease. So notice over here that I drew a rectangle and that represented the whole of the scooter. And you'll notice that I cut it up into 5 pieces. Why did I do 5 pieces? Well, because 20%, if I think about how many 20% sit in 100%, there's 5 of them. So if I cut my big rectangle up into 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, I know that each little block is 20%. So what I can do is I want to figure out how much does that one block cost, because it's 20% of the total cost of the scooter. So what I can do is take 160 and divide it by 5 and I get 32. Another way I can look at it is I can take 160 and I can multiply that by 20%. Notice that 20% becomes 0.20, and if I put that in my calculator I get $32. So this is the cost of my roller skates. So moving on to question number 2. It says a bicycle costs 20% more than the scooter. Okay, so I already know that I'm going to be working with an amount of money that's $160 more than that. So how much does a bicycle cost? Again, I could draw another diagram like this, which I find very helpful. And what is the 100%? I know that is going to be my bike is $160. That's my 100%. Notice that here's the rectangle, here's the $160, and what did I add on to that? I added on 20% more. So if I consider this to be 1 or 100%, and I add on 20% more, 1 plus 0.20 is 1.2. I can simply take my value of 160, multiply it by 1.2, and bingo, I get right to the amount of $192. That's one way to look at it. The other way that I did it was I did it as I took $160, took 20% of that, which we knew was 32. Where did I get that amount? I figured that out earlier in question number 1. And what I did was I just took that 20% and I added it onto the 160. Well, why did I add it on to the 160? Because I know that the bicycle costs 20% more than the scooter. So 32 plus 160 is $192 for the bicycle. Moving on to question number 3, it asked me to figure out the cost of the skateboard. Again, I'm looking at that a skateboard is 25% less than the bicycle. So if my bicycle is $192, that my skateboard's going to be a quarter less than that. So again, I can take 25%. I know that there's 4 of them in 100%, so I can take 192. Here it is right here. And what I did in this particular case was I said, okay, here's my hole. Here's 4 25%. If I take 1 away from the 25 I get, 75% is what's left of my skateboard. Took 190, or of my bike, I should say. Took 192, which is the cost of the bike, and I multiplied it by 0.75. And when I put that into my calculator, I get $144. I can do the same thing by taking 192 and multiplying that by 0.25. When I do that, I get $48. Well, then I know that it's 25% less than. So I took 192 and I subtracted 48. I can also take 192. I didn't show this here. I can take 192 and divide it by 4. Remember, that's what I did for question number 1. So if I take 192 divided by 4, why did I divide it by 4? I divided it by 4 because there's 4 25%. So when I do that, this is 48. Well, I know that that's how much money I need to take off. So again, going here and subtracting, skateboard cost 25% less than. There it is right there. Take 192, subtract 48, I get 144. Moving on. So I'm going to go ahead and let you pause the video, get all of those notes down, and then we'll move on to 14-2, taxes and sales. So on this next section, what I'd like you to do is just do a quick read here. You need to pay 8% tax on a car that costs $12,000. What will you end up paying in total? Show your reasoning. Question number 2, burritos are on sale. Your favorite burrito costs $8.50. How much does it cost now? And the last one was a pair of shoes. They cost $79. They're on sale now. Does this expression make sense? So I want you to read through those. I want you to annotate. Let's just look at question number 1. I want you to annotate. What do you know? Everything that you know about that question. And see if you could draw a picture maybe if you need to. See, and then go on and do question number 2. The same thing. Annotate question number 2 the same way. So I want to show you what I've got so far. So hopefully you annotated the same way. 8%, I can write that as 0.08 as a decimal. We know that the car cost $12,000. I know that I'm going to pay more than $12,000 because I have to pay taxes. Paying taxes means in addition to the cost. So over here, I drew a quick sketch. I know that $12,000 is my original amount. And I'm going to have to pay 8% more. So if I look at this as being 100% of what I've got, and I'm going to need to add 8% onto that. So if I start with $12,000 and I add on 12,000 times 0.08, because that's what I'm going to end up paying. Okay, and now you're going to see what I do here. I'm going to distribute out that 12,000. And what do I get? I get 1 plus 0.08. And now I can simply do the arithmetic, use my calculator, and now I have $12,000, and I'm going to add on 8% onto that. When I do that, I get $12,960. So that's taking the premise or the concepts that we learned in the video as well as I showed you during the warm-up. I can also take $12,000 and I know that I have to pay 8%. So when I multiply those two together, this is $960. And when I take $960 and add it to 12,000, I get the same amount. I get $12,960. Okay, so try doing number 2 that way, but now we're talking about 30% off. So we know that I've got burritos. Here they are right here. Let's just pretend that that is $8.50. And if I take 30% off of that, that means it's going to sit right here. Here's my 30% taking off. So what am I going to be paying it on? 70%, right? So 1 minus 0.30. Again, 30% is 30 hundredths, or you could say 3/10. So what could I do is I can say $8.50 times 0.7 or 7/10. And when I do that, I get a total of $5.95. That's me doing this one multiplication problem, no multiple steps. I don't have to worry about subtracting. So that is how you could do it. The other thing that you could do is that you could say, all right, well, 30% off, so 0.3, so $8.50 times 0.30. Use your calculator. Didn't do this calculator. 850 times 0.3 off is $2.55. And I know that I need to subtract that away from 850. So I take 850 minus 255, which is equal to $5.95. Okay, so 2 different ways. They're both, this is not as efficient. This is much more efficient. Okay, so now we've got a pair of shoes. So that's why I wanted you to try 1 and 2 on your own. So now let's look at question number 3. So question number 3 says a pair of shoes originally cost $79. And now they're on sale for 35% off. So if does the expression 0.65 times 79 represent the sale price of the shoes in dollars? Explain your reasoning. So if I think about the work that I've been doing, I know that I'm taking 35% off. So take a look at this expression right here. I'm going to rewrite it right here. 0.65 times 79. Okay, well, here's my price. Where did they get this 0.65 from? Well, if I take 0.65 and I add it to 0.35, I get 100. So what they did was, we know that if I have $79 and I take away, think about up here with my 30% off, with my burritos. How did I end up with 0.7? I took 1 minus 0.30. So I can do the same. I can go 1 minus 0.35. And what do I end up with? I end up with 0.65. 79 times 0.35. I'm showing this just using one extra step. So factor out or distribute out 79 is 1 minus 0.35. which is right here, 79 times 0.65. They mean the same thing. Go ahead and jot down anything you need to from that part, and I'll pause the video for just a minute and then we'll go on to the second page. Moving on to page 2, this is where we're going to kind of put together what we did on the video for the support lesson on using an expression using only multiplication. So we're going to complete the table so that each row has a description and 2 different expressions. And you're going to find that they both answer the same question. And I'm going to tell you the very last one on this. I'll walk you through it. So again, what I'd like you to do is try this. This is what we did yesterday on the video. Try this one right here. We've got this description: a one-night stay at a hotel in Anaheim costs $160. There's that $160. The hotel room occupancy tax is 15%. So I know that it's going to get added on to the cost of the hotel. So you can see here, there's that 15%, and I'm multiplying that by 160 because that's what gets added on. We don't have to figure out what the total cost is. What we're doing is, here's the expression. What I'm going to challenge you to do is write expression number 2. You're only going to use multiplication. So it's going to be a very efficient expression to use to calculate the percent increase or decrease. So I'd like you to try number 1 on your own. As you can see, what I did was, you'll notice that I factored out the 160, or I distributed out the 160, which is what we saw in the support lessons yesterday. And when I did that, I was left with 1 plus 15 hundredths. And then you're going to notice here that then I just simplified these together and I got 160 times 1.15. That's all you needed to do. Moving on to question number 2. Question number 2 asked that you've got teachers that receive a 30% discount on a museum, and an adult ticket costs $24. So that means this is the original cost right there, and teachers receive 30% off. So how much would a teacher pay for admission into the museum? So again, if you think about, this is what I end up with if I only use multiplication. So what would I have started with, or what could I write directly from this? Go ahead and pause the video, try it yourself, and then come back. You can see from my equation, or my expression right here, I started off with the original amount of $24, and then I subtracted. Why did I subtract? Because it's a discount I'm going to take off. I took my 30%, which is 0.30, and I multiplied it by 24. If I were to factor out the 24, I would have gotten 24 times the quantity of 1 minus 0.3, and then 1 minus 0.3 is 0.7. Moving on to the next one. Question number 3 says, okay, we had a major hurricane, and 46% of the 90,500 households on the island lost their access to electricity. So we know automatically that that's close to 50%. So I know my ballpark number is going to be around 45,000. So I need to just keep that in mind. So what we need to do is, how many households still have electricity? So again, if 46% lost it, how many still have it? So again, I want you to go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and annotate, see if you can come up with both expressions this time. The original one, where you're going to show some more math, and then the more simplified one that only shows multiplication. So you can see right here, what I did was I wrote the expression of 90,500, which was my original. And I then subtracted, because they lost access, 46% times 90,500. So then this was the original. So then I come over here and I note that I've got 90,500, which was, I'm distributing that out. And what am I left with? 1 minus 0.46, which is 0.54. So again, if I go 90,000 times 90,500 times 0.54, that's going to give me how many still have electricity. Okay, so moving on to the next one that we have here. This is a little bit more, I like this problem because it kind of ties in exponents or exponential growth. So you've got 2 years ago, the number of students in the school was 150. So obviously this is our original amount. Last year, the student population increased 8%. This year, it increased about 8% again. What is the number of students this year? So now we're looking at 2 years of students that we're going to have to kind of deal with. So what I'd like you to do is try this, see what you can come up with. I will show you how I kind of put it together and how I was able to simplify it in that second box right there. Okay, so you can see my work right here. So we've got increased 8%. We know that this is going to be 0.08. We also know that it increased 0.08 or 8% again. So let's see if I can blow this up a little bit. So what I've got is I started with 150, and then I'm going to take 150 and I'm going to multiply it by 8%. So this is year one. This is where we start. Then what we do is we come down here, and now we need year two. So year two is I've got 150. So right here I've got 150 plus 150 times 8%, and I've got to multiply all of that by 8% again. So this is year two. So it's taking this, and I'm multiplying all of this by 8% again. So if I keep doing that, I need to factor out. You can see what I did over here. So I did some factoring, which leaves me with 150 times 1 plus 8/100 raised to the power of 2, because I've got 2 of these. Or I can simply say 150, 1.08 raised to the power of 2. Why? Because these are they're sequential years. One happens right after the other. So they're building on the prior. I'm always taking 8% of the prior year. So if you look here, we've got 150. It's building by 8%. Then you're going to take that new amount and you're going to add 8% more. So you keep adding the same 8% every time, which becomes exponential. So this is where we're going with the entire, as we look at this next section, which is 15-2, owing interest. So I'm going to stop the video right there, and I'm going to upload that. And so that way you have got a good handle. A lot of it was a review on the support lesson, and the next video is going to be on the next sections, which is going to be on owing interest and then comparing loans. And what I'd like you to do is we're going to use Desmos to do some quick sketches here on that one. So look for the video after this one.